Greetings and salutations, and thank you for clicking on the video. I thought in this video what we would do is we would take a look around at my system, and I will show you some of the customizations and some of the things that I have done to make Linux useful for me. This is my daily driver computer. Over the last several months, I have done many videos about little tweaks and little customizations and some scripts and things that I have come up with to make my computing experience easier. So I'm going to show you what I've done with it. Recently I got this computer. Those of you who have been following the channel will know that I have had a lot of fun working with the Dell Precision Workstation T3500. This machine is a monster, y'all. It's a half server and half desktop, and at this point it's about 5-6 years old. It's not a brand new machine, and it's not the latest and greatest, but it is a monster of a machine, and it does what I need it to do quite well. So that is the machine that we are going to be looking at today, and this is what all of this is running on, let's put it that way. And I have tried a bunch of different configurations. I've loaded 2 or 3 different Linux flavors on here, and I have come back to Linux Mint 18.1 Cinnamon full-time. I did put Ubuntu GNOME on here for a while, and I thought, well, I'm going to stick with that, and even posted something on Facebook and said, I think I'm going to stick with this, but I ended up running into some problems with Ubuntu, some software issues with the video drivers, and so I said, I'm going back to Mint. So this is what's in the machine. It is Linux Mint 18.1. We're on the 4.4 kernel series. It has an Intel Xeon processor in it. It's got 8.8 gigabytes of memory loaded. I had bought 24 gigabytes of memory to put into this machine, but it didn't work for one reason, so I sent that back, and so I'm just going to stick with the 9 gigs of memory that's in here right now. This is all error correcting buffered RAM. It's ECC, so that's kind of nice. A little bit of extra something that you don't get with regular desktops usually, because most desktops won't use buffered RAM. They'll only use non-buffered RAM, and buffered RAM is great because it error corrects itself. So if you have things that are sitting in memory for a long time, you don't have to worry quite so much about things getting goofy. And I have 2 1-terabyte drives in the machine. I'll show you how I have that configured in a bit. And we're using an NVIDIA card for graphics. It's an older card, and it's one of the lower end ones, but actually it works fine for what I do. Plays video just fine. Everything looks good. That may be something that I upgrade in the future, but for right now it's working great, and I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not a gamer, and I don't expect too much out of my video card. So the first thing that I want to show you is how I have the hard drives configured, because I've talked a lot about that on this channel and how you can do different things. So let's do ls block, and you will see that we have 2 drives in the machine. The first drive has the system, and that is the first partition there, the root partition, and then there is a 10 gigabyte swap space, which I know for a lot of folks are going to go, boy, that's really huge. Well, Linux Mint 18.1 has a hibernate button, and if you want to hibernate a computer, you have to allocate it more memory than the physical RAM in swap space. So I ran this with a swap file for a while, and it ran okay. There was no problem, a small 2 gigabyte file, but I decided when I was going to do the permanent install that I'd just go ahead and set aside 10 gigabytes of swap for the machine to work with. And that way, if I ever do click the hibernate button, it'll actually work, because if you don't have enough, then it could crash the system. It's not really cool. Like most other desktops these days don't give you the hibernate feature, but Linux Mint sticks with it. So as long as they do, I'm going to go ahead and do that. Then the next partition on here, SDA3, that is the backup. And then after that, we have the big, huge drive that holds all of the data that is mounted to /home. So that is the setup. The backup drive is an online daily backup. So the machine, about 5 minutes after it boots up, or when I wake it up in the morning, whichever way it goes, it will actually just go and see if there are any changes, and it will create an exact copy of this home directory and put it in a directory called backup. And the reason why I'm having it do that is just in case something goes Kerflooey, one of these drives dies. Either way, I have a local backup of my data. I also have an outboard backup on an external drive. I'm a little bit backup crazy, and so therefore I maintain two different things. And so to make all this happen, I have written several little scripts and little things to automate all of this. So at this point in time, I will show you those things. So the first thing that I want to do is just do a ls on my home directory, and you'll see that we have a folder in here called Ben. Now that folder is holding the programs that I have written myself. And in Linux, if you are somebody who's going to be writing little scripts and programs and aliases and things like that, if you create a bin folder in your home folder, most distributions will automatically add that to the executable path. It'll be the first thing that gets executed when you type in a command. So you can put all kinds of things in here, and you can issue a command and it'll just do it. So let's see what we have in bin. So if I jump into bin here and we list the storage, you'll see that I have not a whole lot of stuff, but just a few things. This is an alias to Firefox, well actually a link to Firefox, not an alias right here. So I have Firefox installed locally in my home directory. I did a video on how to do that, which is kind of nice because the Firefox you get from that doesn't have anything to do with the distribution. So this is my backup browser, and it also lets me see what Mozilla is doing, and I have configured Firefox the way I like it, and an update from the distribution won't mess it up, that sort of thing. So it looks like this, and when I open this up, if there are any updates available, the way Mozilla does it is that it goes in the background and it updates Firefox automatically. So I don't have to wait for updates to come down from the distribution. Did a whole video on how to set that up. So the first one, this is an alias to a command that is on the system called arpscan. And what arpscan does is it scans the network and it looks for IP addresses and reports them back. So you can put aliases in your bash RC file, and I was doing that for a while. But then I realized that every time that I wanted to change something, I had to edit that one file. So I threw them all in the bin directory here. That way I have direct access to it. So let's look at how arpscan works. And to do that, I will just load it up in Nano. And then you can actually look at it. See, this is just a real quick alias. And when I type in arpscan, it fires off this particular command, which lists all of the IP addresses on the network. And that way I have an idea of who and what is hooked up. The main machines on the network have static IP addresses, so they don't necessarily show up in arpscan, but if anything else is on there, then it shows up. Like I just did this a little while ago to see what was going on, and my Wii is showing up on here. So there you go. That's kind of how that works. Oop, no, let me out of here. X. No, I don't want to save it. Thank you. Let me out. I always do that. I always hit the wrong key when I'm doing videos because I'm not thinking. All right, and so there's a couple of other things in here that I will show you. Let's jump over here and look at the text editor, and we can just go through these one by one. So this is a script to make an exact copy of home to backup, and this is how I am automating the backup that happens every day. So it's real simple. It's the rsync command, and it has bandwidth limit on it. It keeps that keeps the system from sucking up all the bandwidth on the SATA bus, and if this is running in the background, it's not going to hinder performance, because some of those backups can take a little time, especially if I've been goofing around with virtual machines and I've got big files. So that way that can work quietly in the background and it doesn't bother anybody. So it's pretty straightforward. It's just a little script to do that. Now this one is a little bit more complicated. Well, this is, before we get into the one that I thought I was going to show you, let me show you this real quick. This is the script that is placed in Acron. I did some videos about Acron, and what this does is it calls this script to run, and this one is set up to run in Acron. Acron likes things to be done in a single sub-process, so that's what exec does. Keeps everything together. Also, Acron, you don't really want any output, so that's what that does. So this is a script that's running another command, and it's running another script. So these two go together, so they work together. And of course, I can always just do this manually. I can just type in this LB command and then it takes off and does a backup. In the background, I can keep working. It's doing its thing just in case I want to back it up for some reason, like I'm going to change something or thinking about doing something with the distribution. So those are the two backup things that I wanted to show you. There's another one that I don't seem to have up here that I'll show you in a minute. I thought that I had opened that up and gotten that ready. So let's just click over here to the next thing I want to show you. Now I have several machines on this network, and what I do, I told you I'm a little backup crazy, is I like to maintain all of the really important data to be as close to synced up as possible. And so I created a script called syncit, which also uses the rsync command over the network. And what it does is it goes out and it will copy the local stuff to one of the machines on the network. So I'll show you how that works here. So I will just type in syncit, and then I would use the last 2 digits of the IP address for that machine. And now it's going to go connect with that machine, and it's going to see if there's anything extra that it needs to put in there. And these are just doing, that's just doing document folders, stuff that I'm going to keep for a long time. It doesn't do things like downloads. It doesn't do the work folder. It doesn't do that kind of stuff. Just the main stuff I'm going to keep. So that's how syncit works. And those of you out there might be wondering why I'm not using host names with rsync, and that is because the router that I have does not have a host name server on it, so I have to use IP addresses, which is fine. All of the entire system is static IP addresses, so all I got to do is just remember what number goes with what machine, and then I have all of these little shortcuts so I don't have to type in the whole address. So I can show you that one more time. You might have noticed that there's a thing in there called SSHN. So SSHN is an alias that lets me jump into another machine very quickly using the secure shell, just like this. So now I'm logged into the machine that I just synced up to. And SSHNX means that it's going to forward X applications so I can run diagnostic utilities and set up things and actually see them on the screen. Now, I've covered that in a lot of other videos, so I'm not going to get too deep into that. So that's the syncit script. And then the last one here is just a little script that I came up with. This is something that you don't necessarily have to do, but I do work with a lot of large files. I've got the system where once a month it will boot up and it will do a defrag in the background of the system folder and the home folder, and this is an Acron script once again. So this goes into Acron monthly, and about once a month it'll go out and make sure that there aren't any hugely fragmented files on the system. For most desktop users, you never have to defrag a Linux system if you're using the ext4 file system. So this is kind of overkill, but I went ahead and did that anyway. And there's one more that I want to show you here, so let me go and open this up because I want to show you the external backup here. Let's go to Joe, let's go to Ben, and I find a program here called XB, and I open that up. Now what this does is I plug in an external USB drive to the system, and then I fire this off, and what it will do is it will make a backup on that external drive, and the name of the drive is WD Backup because they're Western Digital. I have about 3 drives that have that name. So the way I have set this up, as long as that's plugged in and turned on, it will do a backup. And then this segment of code up here up top actually was contributed by somebody who viewed the video when I was talking about this. And this is just a test to make sure that the drive is actually there so that the program doesn't come up with a bunch of errors and stop working and stuff like that. So I don't have the drive plugged in right now. I can show you how that works. So I'll clear that XB, and it says, well, you don't have any drive in there, dummy. So it doesn't work. So very cool. So thank you to the person who contributed that little if statement. I could have done that myself, but I didn't even think of it. And that's one of the beautiful things about sharing your work and what you're doing, because people add to it. That's the beauty of open source. It's a very small microcosm look at what open source really is. You come up with an idea, you throw the program out there, you let other people look at it, they come up with better ideas, they submit patches back to you. It's beautiful. So there you go. So those are the scripts that I have running, and for those of you who are new to Linux, you might be looking at this and your eyes glazed over, but this is just an example of the things that you can do. Now, as far as software on the machine, oh, I did want to show you one thing. I already showed you that. Okay, never mind. About the disks and how they're laid out and stuff like that. All right. So let's talk first about software. People ask me all the time, what do you use to record your videos? This is the piece of software that I use to record videos. This is Simple Screen Recorder, and it is an application that is put together by a fellow named Martin, and I'm not going to attempt to pronounce your last name, and it's available in the repositories for a lot of Linux distributions. For Ubuntu and Linux Mint, you have to hook up a PPA, but it's really cool, and this is a very simple and very reliable little application that you just fire it up. You know, I plug in a microphone, I fire it up, and I set it up, turn it loose, and I can record. This has proven itself to be, first of all, it is a very tiny memory footprint. There's not a lot of controls on it, and it works really, really well. So most of the videos that you see on my channel are recorded with that piece of software. So that's one that absolutely has to be installed every time that I start doing videos. Other than that, I've got pretty much the basic distribution stuff in here. I really haven't gone beyond what Linux Mint has to offer. So I have Google Chrome installed. Like I said, I have my local Firefox. You can look that up. It's kind of a little bit more private than having the Firefox installed through the distribution. I don't have to worry about the distribution messing anything up or changing things. Like recently, Ubuntu, I found out that Firefox is now multi-threaded, and so therefore it can do multiple processing, and the Ubuntu modification plugin turned that off. So in my case, I don't have that. And then I use Thunderbird for email. I am married to Thunderbird 100% because all of my Easy Linux emails come in through there along with my personal account and everything. And so there you go. LibreOffice installed, a text editor, music. I have the Rhythmbox player set up for music. And this is what it looks like. Pretty simple because I just load up a playlist and start it shuffling. That's all I do. I don't really interact with this too much, but I used to really like Banshee, but now I like Rhythmbox, and the Linux Mint folks have changed that in Linux Mint 18.1, so this is the default, so it works out really cool for me. Because usually what I had been doing, when I got kind of disenchanted with Banshee, I started putting Rhythmbox on my Linux Mint machines, and now I don't have to do it. So the next thing that we have to talk about is something that I play around with quite a bit, and this machine is actually optimized to work with this quite a bit, and that is VirtualBox. And VirtualBox allows me to play with other distributions of Linux. So right now, everything that you see installed here is something that I'm supporting for a client. So if a client calls me up and they say, well, I have a problem with this, and I'm trying to figure out what the problem is, I can just open it up, and I am looking at pretty much the same screen that they have. I think the only one that I don't have installed in a virtual machine right now is Linux Lite. But Linux Lite's not that much different, so I can feel my way around. But if somebody says, well, I have a problem with Linux Mint 17.3, and I'm sitting here at this computer talking to them, and they go, well, I don't know how to fix this, then I can just boot it up. Now, since this machine is recording video and it has several other things open, the boot time on this is going to be rather slow, gang. It's going to take it a little while to get booted up. But usually if nothing else is going on, this actually goes pretty quick. And I've tried all kinds of things to increase the performance of virtual machines. I've put them on separate drives, and I've changed the file systems out, and I've put like XFS, which is a server file system for virtual machines only, that sort of thing. But I'm not messing around with all that stuff these days. I'm just doing it pretty straightforward. And so then I can just boot up Linux Mint here. You're going to see a Linux Mint basic desktop come up, and virtual machines do have a bit of a hit in performance. There it goes. So now if anybody asks about Linux Mint, I can full screen it. Now I'm working in Linux Mint 17.3 as is. So there you go. And I do a lot of testing in virtual machines as well. This is the latest VirtualBox that's downloaded from the VirtualBox folks over on the virtualbox.org website. This is not the one that's in the distribution. simply because of the fact that the older ones with the newer kernels don't work so well. So yeah, I've used to say get it out of the distribution years ago, but now I don't. I say, okay, now I would suggest that you go and, find something else. Let me show you another quick little scripting thing that I have done here. So I'm going to go ahead and full screen this, because I move a lot of the scripts over into the virtual machine so I can take advantage of it. So let's open up a terminal in Linux Mint 17.3, and let's make that a little bit bigger. Oh, come on, why aren't you doing it? Okay, Control Shift plus. Oh, that helps. Hit the right key, dummy. So I have a bigger terminal here so I can show you this very quickly. And that is one of the really cool things that a program that I use, which is actually really kind of old school Linux, is I use SFTP to transfer files back and forth across the network. I just love SFTP. So I have created little aliases that get me into SFTP really quick. So we'll do SFTP and we'll do N. And I'm going to get into the host machine, which is 192.168.0.11. And then it's going to ask for a password, because I don't have the virtual machines set up to automatically use keys. And now you see we have SFTP. And so I can transfer files back and forth between virtual machines and the host machine very, very easy. So if I do a list storage, well, look, there's my home directory on the remote machine that I'm in, and then I can go get files and bring them in, and then you can do LCD, which means now we're going to list the storage on the local machine, and oh no, that's not what I want, LLS, sorry. That when there's the local machines, that's what's on this. So if I want to move, I think there's something in downloads. Well, I mean, what we can do is, I want to transfer a file, so I'll show you how it works. So let's see, what can I transfer? Well, okay, let's do LCD pictures. All right, I think there's something in here. Oh, I need to do a LLS. No, I don't have anything in there. Bummer. There's not much loaded on these virtual machines to show you guys. So, okay, well, hold on. Let's do this. Let's exit out of this real quick. We're on the local machine, and I'll just create a real quick file, and I'll call it hi. So there's nothing in this file. It's just a flag file. So now if I want to move this, okay. So what I want to do is I want to take this file that I have created on this virtual machine, and I want to put it on the machine that we're logged into, which is the machine we're recording the video on. I hope that's not too confusing. So if I want to send that file over, I just go put hi, and then it sent it. So that's how you can transfer files back and forth across a network using SSH and SFTP, and it is extremely easy to do, especially if you set up aliases. And so if I'm sitting here and I think, well, I need something off of the machine in the bedroom, then I can just go grab it. As long as that machine's up and running, I can get right into it. Another interesting syntax for SFTP is that you don't have to type exit. You can type bye, and then it logs you out. And, oh, what do you mean? Did I do it wrong? Oh, sorry, it's BYE. Not buy as in buy something, but there you go. Dyslexia kicks in when I'm typing and talking at the same time. So let's go ahead and we can just power this machine off. And then I can shut down the virtual machine. So there you go, gang. That's pretty much it. I mean, there's a few other things, but I've already rambled on quite a bit. This is the Linux setup that I use day in and day out to get what I need to get done. And all of the business for Easy Linux is taken care of on this machine, and the recording of the videos these days. So I'm very, very happy with this machine. It has been a real godsend, and I got it from a fellow YouTuber named EasySit, and he did a real good job cleaning it up, refurbishing it before it came to me, and it's just been a true joy to work with. And it's got a RAID controller in it. I played around with that for a while. I was talking about that in the last video, but that RAID controller, that Intel RAID controller, it kind of slows things down a little bit, so I decided to go with discrete discs. Although I did consider for a while doing a RAID 0 with a stripe to see if that would make things go faster, but this works really well and the performance is nice. So I got for those of you who haven't been watching my videos, I got a ton of those 1 terabyte Caviar Black drives. So if one of them dies, I can just pop another one in. So yeah, I'm using old spinning drives and not SSDs. All the SSDs that I had, I fried. I just killed them. And that was from moving them from one machine to another and writing them and all that stuff. So for right now, in spinning Rust, we trust. Alright gang, thank you for watching. Check out Easy Linux on the web. Check out Easy Linux on Facebook. And also check out freedompenguin.com for lots of cool stories about how you can put Linux to work for you. And you will find the links for those in the description to the video. We will do it again soon.